Today I'm going to replace my thermostat with a Nest thermostat so that I'll have Wi-Fi functionality. This is the one that's currently on the wall, and so it's just the standard Honeywell manual kind. It works great, but I'm going to upgrade to a smart thermostat, and I've got this one. I'll show you what it's like when I unbox it. When you open the box, this is what you see. You've got the Nest thermostat, and underneath of that is this little tray. You lift that out and it gives you, this is the back of the thermostat. It gives you a couple of screws and it gives you these little cards. What you notice is there are no instructions, and so you're expected to do it all on your phone and do it all electronically, which it works good, but I thought it'd be nice to see how it goes. Sometimes it's better to see it in a video than just try to follow along instructions on your phone. You can see in the instructions it says the first thing you do is to get the Google Home app, and then, well, we'll do that. We'll follow these instructions, but these are just 3 basic steps. Most of it's done on your phone. This is the Google Home app. When you click on it, it opens up like this. You can see I already have a thermostat for downstairs. The one I'm putting in now is for upstairs. If I want to add one, I do this, and I tell it I want to set up a device, and you tell it it's a new device. So I'm not going to create a new home. I'm going to use the one that I already have. So I just hit next on here, and it's going to say it wants to use location services. I can tell it to allow it to do it once. And then I hit continue. It's looking for devices. It came up with a list of devices, so I come down here to thermostat. I tell it I'm going to do a Nest thermostat. It's telling me to scan the QR code on the back of the device. So what you're going to do is, when you turn this Nest thermostat over, it's got a little QR code on the back. You're going to scan that with your phone. I'm going to say scan code, and I'll say okay. You see that it found it, and it says let's set it up. I say continue. You have to agree to their terms. And here's where it comes up with all of the instructions to install it. So it's going to say getting to know your home wiring. It's going to talk about each part of it, several steps. The first one is what tools you're going to need. So a screwdriver, power drill, and so on. Then it comes up and it says to check your system. And it says make sure that your heating and cooling's working now. Mine's working. It tells you to remove the cover from your thermostat, so I'm going to do that now. So I just take and remove this off of here. That's just the front part that I took off. You can see it just snaps off. And then when you look in here, what you see is you can see the wires, their colors, and what they go to. So I go back to the instructions. I've taken off the front cover. Now it says, is it installed an electrical box? You can see that mine isn't. It's just installed on the wall. So I say no. Most of them aren't going to be. It tells you to take a photo of your wiring, and then that way, so I'm going to say take a photo. It switches to my camera. I come over here, I snap a photo, because you want to remember how it was connected in case you have to put it back. And then I click on use photo, tell it to save this photo, which it does. And then it's going to take you back to the instructions. So it says, is it high voltage or low voltage? You can see mine has very small wires. It's a low voltage. It's a 24 volt. If it was high voltage, you would see really thick wires. It says to remove jumpers. Let me show you what that looks like. When they tell you to remove jumpers, they're talking about little devices like this right here. You can see that just jumps from this connector there to this one. It connects the two of them. They're telling you to remove those. Then I'm going to go to next. In this case, it says, do any wires have two labels? You can see on mine that they all have a single label. You get where the light is. So you can see they just have a single label on it. The labels are best seen like right here, where you can see the letters that go with each one. The Y, the W, and so on. So in my case, I say no, they just have a single label. And then it says, which ones do you have? And so you go back to your thermostat, you can see that I have a W, I've got a G, I've got a Y, and I've got an R. So I've got the red, and they correspond with the colors. I have a green and a white that are both the G and W. The blue one is labeled Y, but other than that, the first letter corresponds with the color. So those are the four that I have. So I go back to my phone and I say I've got a W, I've got a Y, I've got an R, and I have a G. So those are the ones I have. I click next, and it tells you to label your wires. They give you in here, if you look at the papers they give you, one of them has, yeah, this one has little labels on it. You can attach those onto the wires so that you don't get them mixed up. In my case, the only one I have to remember is that the blue wire is Y. Everything else, the W is white, the G is green, and the R is red. So those are really easy to remember. So I push next to go to the next step. It says disconnect your old thermostat. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the wires from that. To disconnect the wires, it helps to have a small screwdriver. You can see this one I have, it has a very small tip because you have to reach into these small screws that you can see here. So I'm going to reach in, I'm going to loosen up each of these, that screw, and then these three on this side using this small screwdriver and extract the wires from there. You can see that I have disconnected the wires. One thing I'm going to say here is it's best to turn off the power to your furnace at your control box, because it's best to not have any power to these wires. Now these are low voltage, they're only 24 volt, so it's not too dangerous to work with them, but you need to know that red wire is the hot wire and it has 24 volts on it, and it can, when you move it next to the other wires, it can arc and jump and turn on your fan and do things. So in order to prevent that, you just need to make sure that nothing touches that red wire if you don't have the power off. So I've disconnected those wires. I'm going to go to next, and it tells me, are you using the Nest thermostat trim kit? In my case, I'm not. I'm just going to put it straight onto the wall. So I'm going to say no. Pull the wires through the base. So it wants me to remove the thermostat that's on there, and then I'm going to put this mounting plate on. I've removed the old base plate. You can see that the wall was painted a different color before and it's been painted around, but those are the wires just sticking out, and that's what it looks like when the base plate is off. I'm going to have to mount the new base plate. It's a little smaller, so I've got a little bit of painting to do because I'm not using the trim kit. Alternatively, you can just put that piece of trim on that's large enough to cover up an area like that. This is the size of the new base plate compared with the old one. And so you can see I'm going to have to patch a hole. It looks like it'll pretty much cover one of the old holes and I'm going to have to cover up this old paint too. The holes are patched and the old paint color is painted over, so I'm ready to mount the base plate. I pulled the wires through the base plate, so now I'm ready to go to the next step. It says once those are pulled through, you go to this. It says attach the base plate to the wall. So in the box they give you these two screws that you can use, and I'm going to use an electric drill to just run those into the drywall. They don't have to be in a stud because this isn't a real heavy item. It just needs to be held securely in place. I've got one screw in. You can see they give you a little level that's built in. So you can just look to make sure the bubble is in the middle of those two marks, and then you're ready to put in the second screw and tighten them up. The base plate is mounted securely with two screws and it's level. Now that I've attached the base plate to the wall, I can go to the next one. You can see here it says a few things before connecting the wires. So the way they have it, instead of having screw terminals, they have it where you push down those little clips and slide the wires in. And it tells you how to do that. You insert it into the terminals and then you tuck the wires securely back in there. So I'm going to take and insert these wires. You can see, just insert them into these little holes, and I'm going to match up to the letters that you see there. There's the G and there's the R and so on. So I'm going to slide them in there. You do that by pressing, push this little thing down. You slip the wire into the back right here, and then when you let this go, it just cinches down on the wire. So the wires are connected in there. You can see each wire just goes to the letter that it corresponds to, and you can see how these little clips are held down. It means that the wire's in there and that it's making contact in there. So those are all set up fine. This thermostat controls an air conditioning and a gas-fired heater furnace, and so that's why there's 4 wires. If you don't have air conditioning, there will only be 3 wires. There's a lot of different combinations with heat pumps and so on, and so if you have a different setup than mine, it will give you different instructions tailored to your setup. I've done all of these steps, tucking the wires, make sure they're inside the area, so I can go to the next thing. It says connect the wires, which I did, so I can go to the next. Remove the battery tab. So if you look at, this is the thermostat. If you look at the back of it, there's this little tab. You pull this out and that allows the batteries to energize the unit. And it says attach the thermostat display. And before you do that, they tell you to do that, but you have to be able to scan the back of this, and you have to be, sometimes if you can't scan it, you need to know this number that's right here. So it's useful to take a picture of that so you have that in case you have to do this over again. You don't have to keep pulling the faceplate off over and over. You can just put that number in. I've snapped the front onto the base plate like they mentioned to. Since I've done that, I can go to next on this screen, and it's going to tell you to switch the power back on at your breaker box. And so if you've switched it off, go ahead and switch it on. One thing I'll mention is if you didn't switch it off, that red wire, like I said, is 24 volts. If you touch it, it's not going to hurt you. You just don't want it to be touching other things that it could mess up. Okay, I can go to the next screen now. It says your thermostat's ready for configuration. Next, we'll make sure it's properly controlling your HVAC. So you go to the next screen. It says it's connecting for it. It's looking for the thermostat. And this is the part that can get a little bit tricky. The reason I wanted to make the video, this doesn't always go perfectly because I installed the one downstairs and there's a couple of glitches that can happen. select a language, English. We'll have to see. It says to replace the batteries. So that means the ones that came with it are too weak. That happened with my other one too. I've replaced their batteries with mine. It says the connection's lost. I'm going to put this back onto the base plate, see if I can get the connection to come back. I tried to reestablish the connection with new batteries and it isn't working, so I'm going to leave the setup and play with it to get it to work. But these are the kind of problems that you have. It doesn't always go trouble-free. I couldn't get it to reconnect, so I'm going to start from scratch again to show you this is what happens if you run into any kind of a problem installing it. You have to go back to the home app, you push plus, set up a device, new devices, and I'm going to use the same home, and then it says it's looking for new devices. It doesn't really find them, so when it fails to find it, you just tell it thermostat. So I come down here, thermostat, Nest thermostat. This is the part I was telling you about. It wants you to scan the QR code. To do that, you have to pull the faceplate off, or you can say continue without scanning, and this is where you enter in the number that was on the back of it. And so I'm going to enter in that number, and then it knows that it can connect to that unit, and then I'll say next. Now it says let's set up your Nest thermostat. You have to agree to that again. Okay, it's going to put me back. Now here's where it's different. It's setting you all the instructions, but you can click already installed because the unit's already installed. So any problem you have, you'd use this. You put in that number, you click already installed because your thermostat's already there, and then it's going to try to connect to it. And it may take a while. The new batteries help it to have enough power. It looks like it's enough power to be operating on your Wi-Fi. Which of these wires do you have? I'll fill that in. I put in the wires it has. It says your thermostat is ready for configuration. So I go to this. It's supposed to connect to it. It says it's looking for it. I tell it English. I tell it next. Hopefully it's going to find it this time. Test your system power. Your wiring configuration is receiving power. Maybe your system turn on temporarily. Which is your heat fuel source? Mine is gas for that, so I do this. His delivery type is forced air, so I have forced air gas furnace. Should the fan activate when you're calling for heat? In my case, I don't activate it because the furnace activates it automatically. Choose the mode your thermostat should use today. I'm going to put on cooling. Okay, I don't know if you heard that, but it just turned on my cooling. Turned on my air conditioner. And so it's going through. And this part right here came up. If you look at that, it's showing up here. Shows the indoor temperature, shows that it's calling for cooling down to 75. The indoor temperature is currently 76. And then it's telling me I need to set up the Wi-Fi. I come back here to the phone and it's basically quit and gone back to the start screen for Google Home. So these are the kind of glitches you have. What I had to do last time was, in order to get my Wi-Fi to set up, I'll show you the trick I had to use. I thought I might run into this. You tap this, it says set up Wi-Fi, but it gives you these options. One of them is you go down here to, as you scan down this way, see where it says settings? I go to this, and under settings it gives you the equipment. Actually, I can test my battery. It says the battery is good. So that's one test you have in there. And then it shows you that the Wi-Fi is not set up. But what I'm going to do, it even tells you the version you have. And it shows you this one that says restart. So I'm going to do this one because it restarts it. It's kind of like rebooting it to get it to work right. So I'm going to tap this, restart your thermostat. I tell it to restart. I tap it. Are you sure? Scroll down to this. I say yes. So it's going to restart. Once it restarts, it's kind of like rebooting, and in some cases that helps it to connect to Wi-Fi easier. You can see that it says it's starting back up again, and it takes a few seconds to do that. Okay, so now it's calling for cooling. It's working again, but it's telling me I need to set up the Wi-Fi. So I'm going to go back to the app and try to do that. So now I went through all the same menus that I did before, that I showed you, all the way to get to where it gets to this connecting screen. And I'll see whether or not it actually connects this time. It says connecting to joining device. This could take a minute. Connect to Wi-Fi. Okay, so now it's going to ask me to put in my Wi-Fi credentials. Okay, since I already had my Wi-Fi credentials in from the first Nest that I set up, now it says that it's finishing up. I'm expecting that it's going to actually work this time. If not, I might have to do a little more troubleshooting. It says it's connected. Now it says device ready. Now it says it's getting you device ready. This may take a minute. But it asked me to tell it where this device is. I told it master bedroom. Now it's asking me if I want to save energy. Get started. Review your schedule. I'm going to remove that. I don't need the schedule that they're giving me. The nice thing about this is you can set up schedules. It gives you really a lot of flexibility of how you run your heating and cooling. You can set up these home and away things. I'm just going to say not now. Use thermal. Continue. So I just want to show. So it says it can do HVAC monitoring to see if there's going to be issues. It can also give you a monthly report. I'm going to say not now. There's just a lot of features that it has. I won't go through all of those here. And I'm going to tell it no thanks for now. So this is a kind of a thing. Hey, get the most out of it. Tells you all about it. I'm going to say not now for now. And then reject rewards. Get to know your thermostat. So this goes through a tutorial, tells you what to do. You saw me, you basically tap the side, and well, I'll show you on the thermostat. Oh, so it looks like now it's doing an automatic download of the latest software for it. So it's downloading 56%. So on my other one, what I did is, you can go in and look at the version, and then you can tell it to upgrade to the latest version. It looks like it did this one automatically. And while it's doing that, it might not operate. So as soon as that's over, I'll show you how to run the thing. It's done updating itself. So I'll show you what to do. You can tap it. If you tap on the side, well, the last step really is to, it says it's starting up. Last step is you can peel off this plastic from the front because you're done taking the faceplate off and on. And it says that it's starting up. This is what it looks like. You can see that I have it off, so I'm not doing any heating or cooling. But it tells you swipe the right to explore and tap. You can say, when it gives you that, you say okay. This is showing the parameters. It shows you outdoor, what the temperature is and what it is indoor and so on. But as you slide down the side of this right here, you can see it goes up and down here. That's how you move it. So right now the mode I have set to off, but you can set it to a hold mode. You can run the fan, or you can go to the settings. And I think I showed you before, if you do the settings, then it gives you your equipment. So you can see wiring info and so on. Kind of goes through these different options for you. And then I can go back. It gives me a little battery check. It says that's good. If I tap on it, it says good, next. And look at this, it reads out the voltage, the impedance, and so on. Kind of gives you the specs for that. If you come down to the next one, this one is if you want to link to a different kind of app instead of Google Home. It shows that the network's connected, how strong it is. It shows the new version that it downloaded. It shows the account that I'm connected to. That's the restart. And then there's the factory reset you can do also, which I don't want to do because it's working. So that's kind of how you run through these things. And then you can go back to the main menu. And on this one, so I went through, there's the mode. I think I showed you the fan, timer, and some of these. So that's how you get through your menus, and that's how you set things up. And so that's what it looks like. Then when you leave, that turns off. When you come in the room, it'll turn back on and show you what's in there, what it's currently set to, and what the temperature is. So that's how you do it. It looks like it's on, working like it's supposed to, and it's a really nice thermostat because you can control it with Wi-Fi, and you can be anywhere in the house, set this on, turn it on, get it comfortable for when you come in the room.